everyone, welcome to the Pushing Hazard podcast. This is your host Ash. There is something powerful about talking to someone who once believed they couldn't run. Not that they weren't fast, not that they weren't competitive. They genuinely thought that this isn't for me. And then something shifted. Not overnight, not dramatically, just one small decision at a time. Today's conversation is about that shift. It's about realizing that the thing you avoid might actually be the thing that expands you. It's about learning that slow is not a weakness, that struggle is not a failure, that discomfort is not a red flag. Hard is not the enemy, hard is the point. Because if it's easy, you are not growing. If it's comfortable, you're not stretching your edges. And if there is no doubt, you're probably playing small. We talk about mindset, about choosing your thoughts when things get heavy, about how powerful it is to understand that you can't redirect your mind even when everything feels overwhelming. This episode isn't about performance, it's about perspective. It's about expanding what you believe is possible. It's about rewriting the story you once told yourself. And in that note, please let me introduce to our guest today. Here is Robin. Hey, Robin, welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Ash.
I've known you briefly. We just went back and forth a lot to get this going on. But for the folks who don't know who is Robin, how would you introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Robyn Lesh. I am a professional trail runner. I run for Vibram or Vibram. They make the outsole and bottom of your trail shoes. And I am based here in Southern Colorado in Durango.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And usually the first question whenever we talk is about when did this evolution happen to the ultra running or when did you get into it? So before that, have you always been a runner?
I have not always been a runner. I used to think I couldn't run, that I was just really bad at it, and so I couldn't, which is interesting to compare to where I am now, running professionally. My mom ran when I was growing up, so she did a lot of running, and I learned recently the reason she started was to set a good example for her kids, which was really, really sweet, and I guess in the long run paid off. There were a couple times that I tried running with her a bit, and one week I was like, I'm gonna start running with mom. And on the second run, I tripped on a stick and tore my favorite pants. And so that kind of turned me off for a bit as a 7-year-old. After that, in high school, a acquaintance friend of mine would steal my shoes, and which was all good and all fun. But I would try to catch him, and he would run just a little bit quicker. Like I full sprint, I couldn't catch him. In retrospect, yes, he was a dude, but I was running full speed and couldn't catch him. And I was like, oh, I must be slow. And then a few years later, my mom gave me a walk to run program because I was on the sailing team and I was like, doing some more fitness would probably be good. And so she gave me like a couch to 5K, and I was like, I'm pretty active. I could probably start on week 3 or so. And so I tried, like run 3 minutes, walk 1 minute, or run 2 minutes, walk 2 minutes, whatever it was. And I tried for a couple days and it was so difficult. Like so hard. And I was like, just maybe I just can't run. Maybe this is just something I can't really do. I think I learned in retrospect that I didn't at that time know how to run slow, or that running slow was a thing. So I was running hard for 3 minutes and walking for 1 minute and dying. So my takeaway going into college was I can't run. Like it's just not within my area of expertise. And then a couple of friends one summer convinced me to come on a run with them. And I was like, no, you guys go. Like, I'll just see you when you're done. They're like, no, come along. We'll go slow. You'll be fine. I begrudgingly said yes. And 30 or 40 minutes later, we finished up, and it was hard, but it was like fine. And they were like, oh, we probably ran like 4.5 miles. And I was like, no, we couldn't have. That's impossible because I can't run that far. And they said, well, you did.
Yeah.
And so that was sort of, that was not even sort of eye-opening. That was completely eye-opening. So I started running at the little local dorm running club in college and running for fun around the Charles River in Boston and just exploring and discovering not only Boston, but discovering like how my body could move. Uh, yeah, that was my story into running.
And when did this transition happen for you? Because you, from not running, you went to, okay, looks like I can run. And from there, you are now, oh, look, I can even run longer now. So when
Yeah,
did
yeah,
that
I can
transition
run
happen
60
from
something
I can run
miles at
to,
once. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Yeah, so a lot of years because I was a professional sailor after college and then a sailing athlete and then into sailing for engineering for sailing. Through all those years I ran and through college on the varsity sailing team ran as like cross training for sailing, which was my excuse for why I could go to sports med and get them to help me run, though it wasn't my varsity sport at all. So ran for fun, ran for cross training, ran for fitness, for entertainment, for mental sanity for a bunch of years, but nothing like long, like 5Ks or like explore some trails for an hour or something like that. And that was from college through 2020 one ish. So lots of just like casual running. And then I was working for the America's Cup, which is these like crazy flying sailboats. If you don't know what they are, look them up. They're bizarre. So I was working on the design team for them. And that took us various places, but one of the places, the last place, was down to New Zealand. And the America's Cup, the only thing you cannot buy is time. So especially towards the end of the campaign, everyone is pushing really hard. That means like 60+ hour weeks and like a day off a week. For example, before the final Christmas, we had a 20-day chunk of time where we worked every day, like straight through. I called it 4 days of Monday, 4 days of Tuesday, 4 days of Wednesday. It was just an elongated week. But in that time in Auckland, we realized like we want to get out of the city on these days, occasional days off. We want to like explore. And we started doing that by running. And we're like, oh, we can see a lot and this is really fun.
Yeah.
And we get really tired. And my husband actually said at one point, if we sort of on the first or second weekend, he's like, if we do this every weekend, we're going to get really fit. And I was like, ooh, let's do that. I also discovered that trail races were like a thing, sort of. I kind of knew that they existed, but I didn't realize that they could be competitive. So discovered competitive trail races and just long adventures in the mountains. And it turns out if you like run all day, you get really far. So that's when we started like touching into the ultra distance or running a bit over a marathon. And I was like, oh, this is achievable. You get tired, but it's super fun. You get to see lots. So that's how I got into like running further and running, sort of touching into the ultra distance, just exploring really. And then got hooked and through a cool program that Scotty Hawker, who is another Vibram athlete in New Zealand, put on, um, trained up for Valley Ultra, which is a 50K down there, did well, and decided to commit myself full time to running. And that was 4 years ago.
I think I remember the sailing thing. I've seen some videos and it's the finish is crazy and aggressive always because everybody's trying to finish that and it's almost like you're gonna get crossed or something. Something is gonna go against some ship's gonna go. So I don't know if that is the same race that you were talking about, but yeah, that
Are they
looked intense.
catamarans
I
like
don't know if
two
that,
hulls?
yeah, in the middle there was hole and then there's the two sides of the thing.
Yes. Yep. Those are,
Yeah,
yes. Very
it
similar.
looks
Those are a spin-off of an
yeah,
older America's Cup, and that's a circuit that goes around the world. Very similar.
yeah, aggressive. That is aggressive.
Yes, yes. The reason it's aggressive, there are various types of sailboat racing, but this type is called match racing. Well, the America's Cup is match racing. I think the ones you were talking about are similar, but a little bit different. But match racing is one boat on one boat. It's not like fleet racing where you have 15 boats and you're all sailing around the course and it's whoever finishes first. It's kind of like a trail race. It's like you're just trying to get to the finish first. Match racing is one boat versus another boat. And you are trying to force the other boat to be behind you. And you can use the rules of racing. There's certain rules that the boats have to follow. You can use like wind shadow, like making the other boat go slower. There's all these different tactics and techniques that you can use to try to force the other boat behind you. However, you're also doing it in this uncertain environment of wind, which sort of blows from one direction, but is also always changing. So it might be stronger on one side and then weaker, or stronger on another side and then weaker, or it might change direction. And all those things you have to try to predict and also race with, in addition to trying to keep the other boat behind you. So match racing is super intense.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't want to do that. That sounds chaotic. That sounds chaotic, fun, but also super stressful because you're gonna be always looking for things and then trying to figure out and just like, oh my god, no, just let me do the running. It's easier, much easier.
Yeah, you are fully in control, mostly.
Yes. And going back to you, right? So do you remember your first ever ultra that you did? You said 50K was the first. Is that the first one you did? How is that feeling when you were able to finish it? Because you went from somebody who's like, I cannot run, to somebody who's like, oh, look, I can run, to somebody who's like, oh, look, I can run 50K now. So
Yeah. The first, technically, the first ultra I ran was, somehow we had 2 days off. I don't remember how that happened, but we decided to go to a mountain range hour or two from Auckland called the Kaimais. They have a very special spot in my heart for this reason, and I may try to do an FKT on them in the next year. But the Kaimais, and so we packed up a little bag, little backpacks. Well, not, yeah, pretty little, because we were going to do an overnight. That sentence didn't make sense. They were pretty little, despite doing it overnight. And we set off and ran, I don't know, 15K or something. Beside a hut, we set out. There's lots of huts in New Zealand. They're incredible. But beside a hut, we set out our tarps and our sleeping bags, slept. And then the next morning, we're like, let's take the long way back. So we took a really, really big loop. And I think I may have strategically been like, let's just turn left instead of right at a few certain points to try to make it longer. And so when we got back, we'd run on the second day, I don't know, 45 or 46 kilometers or something. And to me, that was like, technically that's an ultra, because technically it's longer than a marathon. I now know it's not like, it's sort of a
it is.
soft one, but it's over a marathon.
Yes.
And so that was really exciting. It was like, this is achievable. Like, we have backpacks with sleeping bags, and we just like ran back from where we camped, and we did an ultra. So because that's such a low pressure, just like exploratory, I mean, it's really hard, but low pressure exploratory uh first ultra, sort of. Um I was like, yeah, this is doable. And that was a cool way to start into longer distances. Um, yeah, it wasn't like the pressure of a race. It was just, we're going to take the scenic route and we have until dark.
Yeah. And when you when you look at your profession, right, at the time you said you were doing this competitive thing with just two boat on it. It's a high stress job because you being the design, you were designing the thing, so it's a different kind of pressure. And then when you started running, did that help you to relieve some of the pressure and stress from that thing? Because I cannot imagine going back and trying to figure out ways to slow down our boat, but at the time you have to go faster.
Yes, I think it was a good combination. I also have a odd thing that I I'm pretty sure this is something that happened. Actually, I'm quite sure this is something that happens to me, and I haven't really figured out why, but it's helpful. When people around me get more stressed, this happened for the first time in college sailing. I sailed with a skipper who got really, really stressed. Um, my freshman year, and the rest of the year I skippered. But long story short, when I'm with people who get more and more stressed, I get more and more calm. It's really odd. It annoys the heck out of some people. Because so running was just like a reset, and then I come back to the base and to work, and it's like, we're all doing our best, but realistically, nothing matters. Yeah, it was just good to like put it in perspective and like work hard. Like everyone on the team is almost desperate to win the cup. Also, we're competing for a 3-foot silver piece of silver that we get to hold on to for 4 years, and then somebody else tries to win it. So I think getting out of the city and breaking up the day to day was really helpful, and just like zoning the brain into nature.
As you were going through this ultra, right? So even though it was not a race, technically, you were still pushing yourself and going through. Did you know back then how to navigate with that low thing that you faced, or you were just like didn't feel any of that back then because
To,
you were not racing
to navigate with which part?
the the low part that we go right now? You probably know it now. When you do a race, then there is a high point and there is a low point. So, but
Ah,
back
yes.
then you didn't know any of that, so you just didn't care. You just
We had
run.
some low points. So on that day, that 40 something K coming back with our like our backpacks of overnight stuff. The Kaimais are quite technical, like just forest, like forest, jungle forest. So very rooty, lots of stuff. So gotta pay
Mm.
attention. And so we'd come sort of down this loop, come the long way down this sort of side, and then you pop up on a ridge and you run the ridge back to the car. And we're like, okay, so the first half will be hard, and then the second half we'll just like run the ridge to the car and be good. And when we got on the ridge, we started like going up these little hills and down these little hills and up these little hills and down these little hills. And we're like, oh no, it's going to do this the whole way. This is going to be like 20 kilometers of up these little hills and down these little hills on a ridge. Like we expected the ridge to be flat. I now know never expect a ridge to be flat, ever. If you happen to be on a flat ridge, say, wow, isn't this nice? The rest of the time, it's going to do this. And you're going to be like, oh my God.
Yeah,
And so we were like, there only has to be like 5 or 6 more of these. And then 5 or 6 later, we're like, what's the point of counting? Like, at some point, we'll get to that ridge, like the spur over there, and we think that's the way down to the car. It might not even be. It might be the next one. So just lock into these like 2-minute hills, 2-minute ups and downs, and at some point we'll arrive. Then we did arrive at the turn off, and we're like, excellent. All we have to do is go down this spur, and we're at the car. And it turns out the spur was quite steep, which we'd come up and it had been fine the day before. But today, after 50 something kilometers in the last 2 days, our knees were extremely tired. And
yeah.
so we hobbled down that and I think got some sticks from the bushes to help us get down. So it wasn't a walk in the park, but it was cool to look back on because I learned something that's really useful. Never expect a ridge to be flat. Always expect lots of hills on it. And then also how much stronger I've gotten for descents at the end of 50 kilometers.
That reminds me of a picking that I went to when I was kid. We went to this mountain and I think we were fine. We went up, and then when we were descending, there was one kid, like he was like our teacher's brother, and then he led us right. So and then he led us wrong way. At some point he just got back or whatever, we didn't know. But we were five of them, like we were five people, five guys, and we were lost. And as we go down, we could like start hearing the creek, like the water flowing, because that is not the way to go. So yeah, and then somebody said, because we were lost, so somebody said, look at the power lines, because if there is a power line, then that means there is a road. So somebody was smart, like right in 10th grade. So somebody did that and we found the road. But then there was mountain lions in that forest or mountain. So when we were coming down, we just slid down. There is not even walking because we were so scared, so we had to run so fast. So like you were just mentioning, and I just remember that, like, oh yeah, I remember how hectic that can be, because after a whole day of going up and then like coming down, and I think the mountain was pretty steep, and I remember my whole clothes was all like full of mud and everything, and it was like, oh my god, that's I will never forget this incident.
That's quite an adventure. It's good to
Yes,
have
oh
adventures.
yeah, and then I got smacked because I was the principal was my dad's friend, so and he was there, and they were waiting for us, and we were like 3 4 hours late than everybody else, and finally made it to the bus, and then he smacked me because I was the only one he knew. So it's like not fun after all that we went to. I just got a smack on
Like,
top
we're
of it.
trying. Just not like we were intentionally lollygagging. We got quite lost.
Yeah. But that is, I don't think I'll forget it ever. It's like you said, that is fun, that is adventure, and like if I didn't forget that how fun it used to be until now, then I would be doing this forever and again because I had really discovered like how running can be fun. So yeah, that is best moment I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now going back to you, right? So favorite moment, CCC, heck of a run. It's so hard. 6,050 meters of elevation. You were seventh. You finished it in 12 hours, 16 minutes. How was that day for you in terms of your experience? Because UTMB is pretty famous race. So
Yeah.
was it like how you expected? Like, because there is so much hype with UTMB.
Yeah. It was a wild day. I knew what to expect on the hype side because I've run OCC twice. So I have been on that start line and I've been with that type of competition. CCC was completely different in terms of the race. Like, it's twice as long. It's twice as long, it's twice as verty. It was very much a new area for me in those regards. I'd done one other 100K in the spring, in April, which was Gorge Waterfalls 100K. It is relative relatively flat. I've now realized it also has 3,000 meters, which for 100K is not very much, or is on the flatter side, but still it's quite a bit. And that had been my only other 100K. And that race is less, at least for me, was less than 10 hours. That was 9:45. So I haven't raced anything more than 10 hours. And I knew CCC was going to be more than 10 hours. I'm a little bit lucky in that, as I said, the way I started was those adventures in New Zealand. And so finding out about trail races, just like having big adventures. There was one summer where I hooked up with a couple of friends and my partner, and the four of us did like adventures every weekend. So we'd do these long, like 50K missions with, I don't know, 5,000 meters of vert, just like going in the mountains for 18 to 20 hours, just adventuring. Well, 15 to 20 hours, say. So the prospect of racing for over 10 wasn't like, I don't know if I can do that, because I knew that we could do long adventures, but adventuring is different than racing. You're going at a completely different effort level. So I guess I felt like I had a lot of the background, like I wasn't scared by any of these factors. I just never put them together. And it was going to be interesting to see whether my guess at the right effort level for a 10-hour or a 12-hour race was going to be right or not. I knew that I'd run Gorge in less than 10 hours. So I was like, okay, so I know that I can go this far pretty quickly. This is a lot more vert, but 3,000 more vert, 2 more hours. That seems maybe doable, maybe. So I was like, I can probably be somewhere between 12 and 13. I was like, I can probably be near 12. That's quite optimistic. So let's say 12 to 13, 13 and a half. And just see how it goes. And the women's field in the last year has been wild, incredible. So pretty much every race I've done since JFK last year, I have been pretty much the winning time from the year before, sometimes faster. Like Gorge, I was 8 minutes faster than the winning time last year and got fourth. So that's how fast the women's field is becoming. Same with JFK. I was like equivalent to first or second every other year. And it was also fourth because the field is flying. It's so cool. It's really, really admirable. So looking at the results from CCC last year, top 10 was within 2 hours. And I was like, well, I bet you this year it's not going to be 2 hours. It's going to be like 1 hour. And I bet that's all going to be moved forwards like 15 minutes or something like that. That turns out to be exactly what happened. So I was like, I think I can run somewhere between 12 and 13. Who knows? I've never raced this long in time, and we'll just see how it goes. Yeah. So my biggest not hesitation or stressor. The thing that I was like, this is a make or break, but I will just see how it is the first climb. So you have 800 people that run for 5K on a road, and then you're into a single track that goes up a 1,200-foot climb, 1,200-meter climb, sorry. And getting slotted into the right spot in that line was the part that I was like, this is really important. And it was kind of like, you don't actually have that much control over. You just kind of guess, place yourself where you think it's going to work and see what happens. So that's the profile starts with that huge climb. Then it has 20 kilometers of like rolling, flat, contouring running, beautiful beside like glaciers of Mont Blanc. And then you have another big climb, and then 20 kilometers of downhill where you lose all that elevation. And then it's like 3 massive climbs to the finish. And so I was like, the massive climbs are just going to be like plug away. Like there's nothing else you could do. Just get up them. But that first climb was like, that's the really important part. And it's kind of a little bit of luck and a little bit of just like guessing. So running off the start, everyone's running fast. Everyone runs fast off these starts. So have some turnover. So we're running fast on this road, and then we get to where it starts a uphill road, and everyone's still running, and that's fine. And then we get to steeper, and I was like, we all of us should not be running this grade because we're at the beginning of 100 kilometers, and this grade is where it's starting to click into more efficient to walk, to hike, to speed hike. And when you're out doing a long race, efficiency is the most important, because if you are overextending energy that you could save for later in the race, you'll be able to run stuff later much faster than if you use it at the beginning. So I was like, none of us should be running this grade. But I listened to this little piece of intuition, was like, but you have to. So was like, well, we'll just see how this goes. Ran all the road up to when it started 2-track or single track, because I was like, these people that I'm with, I think are the right people for me to be with on this climb. Like, I think this is the right spot in this group. And so that turned out to work really, really, really well. And so top of the climb, long contour, running smoothly and fast. It's quite fast. That's the weird thing. It's like 100 Ks aren't slow. Just running smoothly and efficiently through the contour. Then to that like big climb before the super long descent. And at you never really trust what people say in terms of position, like where you're at, because they weren't paying attention. They missed somebody. They thought a dude was a girl, like, or vice versa, or they went to the bathroom and 4 people came by, like, who knows? Or they missed the leaders, like all sorts of things. So you don't really trust what people say in terms of position until you get to like your crew. And hopefully they've looked thoroughly or are paying attention when they count. But I heard a couple times on that climb in the middle that I was somewhere around 10th. And I was like, oh shit. Because I knew how deep the field is. Like I was ranked somewhere in the top 25, but I expect it was like 24th. And so that means there's 15 plus really fast women right behind me. And I'm like, oh God, because ideally aiming for top 10, like in a, like everything went well world. And usually I like move up through the field. So I start quite conservative. Well, that's changing, but I'm trying to change that. But start like smart, maybe a little bit too smart, but start smart and then like move forwards as people start to have trouble. So that's usually my method. I was like, shit, I'm like 35 kilometers into this race and I'm already in the top 10, which means I could go backwards quite easily. So that was a little bit of okay, well, ignore that piece of information and just keep racing and keep moving forwards and just do what I need to do right now in this moment on this section of trail. So kept that focus through to the really, really, really long descent and the climb to the first crew day station, which is a halfway. Should I modify swear words, or can you put swear words through? I should ask that.
What do you mean by swear words? Like how? But yeah, it's fine. I think it's fine.
Okay, okay,
We
cool.
can. I
Just
can
so you
just
don't
say
have to
it's.
do like a bunch of editing unnecessary. Or like,
No, yeah. I can probably say it's explicit when I upload the podcast.
okay,
It should be
I
fine.
mean I don't swear lots, but I swear some in this race.
Yeah, it's
So
fine. It is fine.
okay, cool. Through to the first crude aid station, which is at halfway at 50 something kilometers. You're half on distance, less than half on vert, probably, or about half. And my coach, Robbie Britton, was there crewing me, which thank you so much to Robbie. That was A, really special, B, extremely helpful. So saw him at halfway. He's like, "How are you eating?" I said, "Actually, great." No, maybe he said, "How are you feeling?" first. And I said, "I'm really tired and this is fucking hard." He's like, "Yeah, no need to hammer. You're doing great. Just like keep doing what you're doing." And I was like, "Really? Okay." And he said, "How are you eating?" And I was like, "Actually, great. I'm exactly on my targets," and was just eating when I had to. So that was good. And he told me some stuff about the people in front and said, "See you at the next one." So headed off into the first of those massive climbs, passed someone, uh, came down a visit in, I think, to the next one in ninth or something like that. He was there again. I was like, "This is so hard. I'm so tired." He's like, "You're doing great. Keep it up. Keep eating." Um, and this was a fun moment. Robbie's amazing. I love him. He at this aid station, he refill everything. He tells me like how I asked how I'm eating. I'm doing good. Tells me like the stats on the women in front, like how far people away. Uh, cool. And then he said, cool. Now fuck off. Like, go get it done." And I was like, okay. Because there's nothing else to say. Like, you do the stuff that you need and then fuck off. See you later. So, good crewing. Funny, like lighthearted, also business. Anyway, saw a couple teammates. They cheered me on, gave me some on the go good mental reframings because it was really hard. And it was this is for like the last 6 hours of the race. It was really hard, and it was hard before that. So it's just a long time of being like, holy crap, like. Oof. Past another lady just chipping away. I worked with, shoot, what's her name? I have to look it up. Ran with another American lady for a while before the first crude aid station. We worked together for various parts of the race. Yeah, just chipped. And the weirdest part, and then somehow wildly finished in 12 hours and 16 minutes in seventh. Like, mind blowing. And the weird thing is I can't like conceive it in my head. Can like it doesn't match up, like running like hard and working hard for 12 hours and then sort of alone, like not completely alone, but fairly alone. Like, you occasionally see other athletes and you occasionally see your crew and you occasionally see an aid station, but just like working pretty hard by yourself for 12 plus hours. And then that being seventh at CCC, like, doesn't compute in my head. They're like two completely different circumstances and existences or something. But turned out, yeah.
It is. I mean, I just remember I think whatever you just describe, that is how I felt when I did my first ultra. Was like I said, after that 16 kilometer of downhill, there was this 5 kilometer of uphill, and then in the middle of it, I sat there and everybody was walking, and I said, "This is bullshit," because it didn't stop, like you just said, and I was like, so. It was the hardest thing I have ever done physically, and I was like, I don't know if you can finish it, like all those doubts. And
Yeah.
I think one thing I learned is we don't know how much our body can do until we put ourselves into, like you were just talking about, right? So you said you were so exhausted by 50 kilometers, but yet you ran another 50 kilometers, and then smashed it. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
our body is incredible.
It is incredible. And I think I learned this a little bit racing Speed Goat in June, July, whatever. Where I was like, I'm going to push this because I've raced a lot of 50Ks. I've probably raced, I think I added it up in something like 18 or 16 or something. So I was like, this one I'm going to like push from the beginning. Like usually I take it easy for the first half and then push in the second half. But I was like, I'm going to start pushing it more from the beginning. And the weirdest thing is it felt a lot like 100K in terms of how the fatigue felt in the last third, where it's just like, I don't know if I can pick up my feet and run up this grade. And then you just do. Like the brain says, I don't think we can. And you say, okay, I hear you. And then you pick up the feet and you run anyways. And the brain is saying, we can't do this. And the body's saying, we can't do this, but it is. And so just not listening too much, like eating really well, listening to that, eating heaps of food, as much as you possibly can, and then just doing it. Even if all the signals are telling you you can't, just pick up your feet and see what happens. Yeah. And so I leaned on that as well at CCC, just like we learned at Speed Goat, even if you feel you can't run, you pick up your feet and you run.
Yes, that's pretty much it. One foot in front of and here another one.
Yeah, yeah.
If you go back and look at CCC, right? So, like I said, it's so hard, and it is hard, right? You did awesome thing doing like it's the word is incredible on that one, and it is so competitive, and it rained this time. It was not fun. Weather was too much, pretty much impact too. But if you look back at now and look at all as a whole CCC, what is your favorite moment, or is there a favorite section of that race for
Yep.
you?
Yep. My favorite section is that long contour across northern Italy. It's beautiful. Like it's so pretty. It's just like flowy running, and on your left is just like glaciers of Mont Blanc. It's gorgeous. Yeah, and that was nice because this doesn't happen anymore, but I used to get bored in the first half of 50Ks because it was just like, just go easy. And it's like not easy, but it's also not hard. It's just kind of like working, but not too hard. But now I just work hard and it's just hard. But that section, even though it's like at the beginning and you're kind of like just setting up for future success, um, is so pretty. It's just lovely. And then the other part I like is I do really enjoy like the end when it gets really, really hard and you're just grinding. And there's just something very, very purposeful and simple about it too. Like go as hard as we can sustainably for the next hour. Like try to like be right on the right there in terms of what I can do for this last climb or this two last climbs or whatever it is. Um, so that sort of applies to all races. For CCC specifically, like that long, beautiful contour is lovely.
Yes, and as we were talking about all the run, like you just described, right? This was so hard, and I don't know if I can do this. And it's like, I'm okay, but this is hard. So when you are in that mindset, how do you get out of it?
Which mindset? The
When you're feeling like, oh my God, this is so hard.
it is hard. Like it's supposed to be hard. Like we're running 100 kilometers. Like that is hard. So I guess it's not something to be scared of. It's just the reality. Yeah. If it was
Do
easy,
you accept it?
yeah, yeah, because it's supposed. If it wasn't hard, I think I'd be doing something wrong. Like I should run faster or uh, race further, or it's built into racing. It's built into racing at any distance. Is that it's hard, and that's part of the fun of it. But it's not something to be scared of because it gets hard, really, really, really hard, and then it gets easier, and then it gets really hard again. So it's not forever. It's supposed to be hard.
Like before the podcast, we were talking about this where you are running and then in a race, right? So there is so many different mood or moment
Yeah.
where you feel incredibly happy, like, yes, I got this, I'm smashing it, I just did this 35K, 50K, 60K run, and then I'm gonna cross it, and then when you go to 65K, and then like, oh my god, I can do this. So have you had any of these in the races, like CCD or any other one where you just felt this low?
Yep. Very much so. It actually happened in CCC at the top of the second to last climb. So there's those 3 big climbs. And as I said, before the first one, I was really tired. After the first one, I was really tired. Anyway, so at the top of the second one, the weather had come in. It was wet. I put on a jacket and no, it was just wet. It was cold. It was like the top of the climb. Like climbing is fine. Like it's just hiking. Like you hike as quick as you can, but it's hiking. However, the top of that climb goes up and then it flattens out. And it's still very much uphill. And you just climbed like 1,000 meters. So you're like, shucks. You gotta start running. But your legs are tired from this ascent and it's this douche grade, and you're like, but you have to. Like, it's you just pick up your feet and you run. So I just come to that, and then this was a descent. And this section I'd done with my really good friend Katie Wright when we fast packed TMB over a few days a couple of years ago. And I remember like loving it. It was so much fun. It was just like we were flowing down this together and we were laughing and we were having a good time. And I got to this spot like in the rain after 75 kilometers, and it's getting cold, and I'm like struggling to run up this douche grade after climbing all this. And I was just like, oh. And then, so I put on my jacket, I put on gloves, try to stay warm. I get to this steep descent, and my knee starts hurting, and I'm like, oh my, I'm wet. This is a little bit miserable. My knee's hurting. I felt like I was getting a little bit of like menstrual cramps. I'm like, this all sucks. A little bit, like not like, yeah, but yeah, it was kind of sucky. And then I was like, okay, let's change the mind. Like, let's change the mindset here. Let's eat. I probably haven't eaten recently. That'll fix most of this. Am I warm enough? Yes, maybe just like put on these gloves instead of these gloves. And let's change how you're thinking. Like, yeah, your knee's pulling a little bit, but let's just monitor it. Like, it'll probably come and go. So let's not stress about it. And there's this really steep section, but you're almost to the bottom of the steep section, and then you're into this like trail. And this is really similar to this other race that I did 2 years ago in the rain on very similar, like slightly rocky, slightly grassy, like small little trail. And that was so much fun. And so like you get to run in the rain. You love running in the rain, which I actually do. Like you're not slow on that. You might have felt slow in that steep descent because it's a steep descent. Like it's hard to go down really steep, loose, wet things quickly. So that doesn't mean you're slow. It just means that we're gonna take this trail. Now that we're off that steep stuff, we're gonna love this trail and lean into it and just like enjoy running on this bit. And we're also gonna, I think I already had music playing, but not sure what I did with the music. But so then I was running on this, like, actually, this is really great. Like, you're good at fast, like, wet, technical trails. And then this song came on that was Woman, I think, by somebody or other. And so I started singing to that, and then just, like, proceeded to have a great time. Yeah, but all because I was like, I noticed where I was at, that I was like in this low spot, and said, okay, we're going to change this. And what are the things I need to do to change this? Eating is always number one.
Food, yeah.
Like that's the number one. And then just chip away at the other things. And you have the amazing thing about human brains is we have so much power to like shift where we're at. It feels like we're just kind of on this railroad track and we're going to end up, I don't know, at the trash heap or something. But we're also the conductor, and we can just invent tracks going other directions. We're like, actually, there's now this new track that goes to the right, and it goes into this beautiful flower field, and we're going to head over there. So noticing where the track is going and then deciding to put it somewhere else. Yeah, it's like a superpower. We can all do it with a little bit of practice, which is one of the reasons I am into mental coaching and life coaching for performance, because I think we have so much we can learn to affect where our brain is at. And that can be so, so, so powerful. So if anyone wants to learn about that, send me a message. I'm going to start doing some
Yeah,
mental
I
coaching on
mean,
that.
there's so many people like that doing so much this big big distances, and you are doing 100k. It is a lot too. So for somebody who just runs marathon, 100k is like we were talking about earlier on. 100 mile is 6 marathon. That was such a nice way you put it in, because I never thought like that before. And yeah, uh, can you elaborate? Yeah, let's
Oh, what
hear
we
it
talked
from
about
yours.
before about the
Yeah,
how to way to frame 100 miles. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yes,
Let me bridge it over somehow. Firstly, like any distance that's big for people is a big distance. Like I still remember when I was like flabbergasted when I ran 10 miles. Like that was a huge achievement for me at that time. And so like running a 5K or running 2 miles, like the first 3 or 4 miles that I ran, that was humongous. That like opened the fact that I could run. So like there's this, oh, I'm only running this distance. But no, if that's your longest trail race and it's a 21K, that's incredible. Like, that's really far. Like, objectively, a 21K is far. Other distances are farther, but that doesn't matter. They're all far. So I'd say that's the big, like, asterisk that I would give all distance running conversations. So what we were talking about before we started the recording, before we started the podcast, Ash was mentioning that he was running a 100 miler in a few months, next spring,
no,
8 months,
next
summer,
August.
August. Excellent. Next summer. I have not raced a 100 miler, but I overheard some really good advice from my friend Katie Wright to a friend of mine who was running his first 100 miler. And he was a little bit apprehensive because it's a chunk. You get really far in 100 miles. It takes you a long way. She said something that I think was just very poignant. And she said, a lot of people are trying to run a sub 2400 mile. Like that's their goal. And a lot of people have a hard time hitting that 24-hour or being a sub 24-hour. 24-hour for 100 miles, quite like solid. That's a solid time. And she said the thing that people don't notice is that you could almost walk 100 miles in 24 hours. That's a little bit quicker than 4 miles an hour. And 4 miles an hour is like a fast walk. So what people are often do is they're like running fast and then at part way running, and then at some point they're like, "Oh my god," and they slow way 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 down and they struggle to hit 24 hours. However, it's just a little bit faster than a walk. So go slow from the beginning, because you're feeling fresh, you're excited, you're like, this isn't hard at all. But your goal pace is a little bit faster than a walk. Uh, and my friend Peter Knight was like, that's really interesting. And then he's like, oh, he did some quick mental math and said, it's also 4 6-hour marathons. So 24 hours is just about 24-hour 100 mile is just about 4 consecutive 6-hour marathons. And a 6-hour marathon is like, a pretty relaxed time for most people, not for everybody, but for most people who are attempting a 100 mile, a 6-hour marathon is relatively relaxed. So that's also your goal time, a 6-hour marathon pace. So that's a way to like frame how you're actually like what 24-hour marathon or 24-hour 100-mile pace is. It's pretty darn relaxed. So taking that approach from the beginning and sticking to it can be really helpful for the full race. Pete did a great job on his first 100 mile. I think he got like 21 hours or something like that, way under 24. And we were like,
Yeah,
how'd it go? And he said, maybe that's when he said the 6-hour marathon. I don't quite remember. But he said, every hour or so, this was my technique. This is what I did. This is how I did it. Every hour or so, I was like, could I go slower? Yeah, I could probably slow down. And he slowed down every time he thought of it. He was like, can I slow down? Yeah, I can probably slow down. So not like pushing or trying to get to a timer. It was literally going as slow and as easy as he could from the beginning to the end.
Yeah, and when you mentioned that, I had this light bulb moment. Like it's like, oh my god, that is so true because you never thought about it, and then when you look at the distance and you are always like 100 miler, and then oh, how long it's gonna take me? Should I run too fast, or how should I be doing? And then you just like when you said 5 to 6 hour marathon, 4 hour 4 times, and that was like, oh my god, yeah, that is so true that you don't have to push. 5 to 6 hour marathon is relatively chill, I think. I run marathons, and 5 to 6 hours are like really comfortable where you don't have to push too much, so you can walk a lot, and you don't have
Yes,
to. You can do pretty much 7 minute mile, like 7 minute per kilometer or something like that, 78 kilometer, and then you're gonna be like, wow, that's pretty
exactly.
easy.
So like doing
Yeah.
that walking sometimes from the beginning of the race makes the middle and the end a lot easier.
Yes, I mean, like I said earlier on, each podcast I've done, and there is something I've taken from it, and I think that is this from this episode is going to be there, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to be when they hear it for the first time, they're going to be like, "Oh yes, that makes so much sense." Because I don't think I have heard anybody share this before, and I do watch a lot of clips from other podcasts or something, and I don't know if anybody have thought like simplified it in this way, so it is much more comprehensible for all of us. Like 100 miler is 4 marathons, 5 to 6 hours. That's 24 hours. Like, oh yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad.
yeah,
Courtesy of Katie Wright and Peter Knight.
yep, yeah. Kudos to them, and that is such a cool way to break it down. And when you do these races, right? So one of the most important aspect is yes, you run, you do, but then once you finish it, that's where mostly good things happen too. When you recover, how is your recovery when you do this kind of races? Because running 100 kilometer 12 hours takes a lot of toll with 6,000 of blood.
It sure does. My body was haywire for the next
Yeah.
6 hours. You're always like, I'm supposed to eat. I'm supposed to refuel. I'm supposed to get protein, but like for me, not a chance. Like I've been eating 90 grams of gels for the last 12 hours, and my body's like, you motherfucker, what the hell? So it's just like haywire. I remember a moment like I think I finished around 9:30 or some 9:20, 9:16 probably. And by like 11:30 that night, I had a moment where I like got really dizzy, I got really hot, like my body was like and I was like, I heard it saying to me, "You did all this stuff. You're expecting me to fix myself, and you've given me nothing. What am I supposed to work with? What am I supposed to work with here?" So I was like, okay. I'll try to see if I can find something for you to eat that you can like something that you can take down. I ended up with cheese and rice cakes, which was okay. And then I discovered rice cakes and avocado, and that was magical. In retrospect, I think I would do some more post food shopping, like some soup or something that's more digestible. But rice cakes and avocado was the thing. 100K is really far. After Gorge, I was back running in like later that week, probably. Don't do that. I talked to Emily Hawgood at some point this summer, and she's like, yeah, after 100K or 100 miler, take 10 days off, like off. And I was like, ooh, that sounds like a better plan. So that's more what I was aiming for after CCC. Like just a big chunk of time off because training and racing and running breaks our body down and makes us weaker. And the only thing that makes us stronger is rest and recovery. So just saying thank you to the body, giving it that rest and recovery, helping preempt any like return to activity injuries, just like really taking a chill. I had a sort of unfortunate path back from CCC in that about a week after I got some sort of stomach bug, like some amoeba or something, a little bit unclear how, but I was out for a week not eating any food. Well, eating as much food as I could, but that was not very much. So I wouldn't advise getting a stomach bug.
No,
So I'd say that
might be
delayed it
water.
by a little bit. Yeah, I don't think it was at the race. It was something after,
Yeah.
a week or so after. But I knew from last year I also had something weird happen where couldn't run for a couple weeks, and that was fine. Like I raced JFK a few months after that and ran really fast. So like don't stress about time off. Like it's fine. Like it's completely fine. Um, even if you're really sick, it's also completely fine. So it will just take a little bit longer. So I would say like a month later, I was starting to run a couple workouts. I'd say it's probably typically maybe like that. I mean, I've only run 200Ks, but or maybe a little bit shorter, but it realistically takes a big chunk of time to get back to training. That was one of my thoughts while I was running Gorge, while I was running my first 100K, because I was trying to figure out, do I like this distance? Do I like racing like this? And I was like, while running, like while the middle of the race, I was like, this is pretty fun. Except that I know I'm gonna be wrecked after this, and I'm not gonna be able to
Mhm.
train for like weeks. And that's kind of a bummer because I like training and going from like the top of your form pre race to like can't even, yeah, like walk. No running for weeks is quite a transition. And so just like expecting that transition, being prepared for it, being confident that it's the right thing to do and actually doing it, just chilling. It's quite hard, at least for me.
Yeah, me too. I know I did. I remember my ultra, and then after that, I had half race that I booked, and then I had like after a month, I had a Berlin marathon, and it's just like too much disturbance, too much
Yeah.
of tapering, too much of there is not enough time, so I don't like it. But yeah, I think what you said makes sense. 10 days, Emily, good. She's so cool too. I talked to her in the podcast as well, and she's like super chill person to talk to. But
Yeah.
I think 10 days, 10 days is good advice. Do you have any soiling or anything after the race, or no?
Anyway,
Any foot soiling or anything? None of that.
foot swelling.
Yeah.
Um, not really. Like I think just kind of a lot of general haywireness. Like always after racing, this was the most notable at JFK because it's on packed, like packed gravel and cement and a little bit of trail. Um, you're like racing all day and you're like looking forward to at some point like laying in bed and being like all cozy. But the body is like so like
Yeah.
my legs are like buzzing and like really warm or really cold or and just like going haywire. So it's never completely enjoyable. Legs up a wall sometimes helps just to like help with circulation.
Magnesium gels.
You mean gels with magnesium in them?
Yeah, there are some gels with magnesium which you can put on it, and then that kind of helps with the recovery.
Oh. Sorry, I thought you meant to eat that have magnesium in them. I was like, oh, no, no. No, I think because I've like done a lot of 50Ks and have ramped up in a very smart way. Like I've been racing seriously for the last 4 years with VBurp, and that's a lot of racing. And I think my body's absorbing it really well because I'm doing it in a smart way, in a progressive way. So while it's haywire afterwards and recovering, it doesn't feel like I've done an exorbitant, like a unrecoverable amount of damage. It's learning how to cope. And so like I used to get really like swollen feet and ankles and like whatever. There's a word for it when there's a lot of fluid in your lower legs. That doesn't seem to happen anymore. At least not as much, not as notably.
When you look at yourself, right? So when you were describing your journey, then you describe 7-year-old running with your mom, and then your jeans were torn, and then you
In
didn't
my
say, "I don't
yes.
like this running," and then you did a couple of 5Ks, and then you fell in love, or you didn't know you could run, but then you somehow discovered that you can run 4 or 5 miles, and then now you're running these distances. If you go back and look at your journey, and then I think I would say the 7 year is way too old to do this. But if you go the first person when you ran 4 6 kilometer with your friends, when you went and you did that, do you think that Robin would imagine doing all this, that what you're doing right now?
That's a good question. And it makes me wonder if how other people are in terms of what they feel is possible or what they visualize in their future or what they feel the realm of possibilities could be. Um, because and out of curiosity on how other people are, because I I'd say if you asked my like high school self who tried that like walk to run program and was dying, if I would project that I could possibly run 60 miles and place 7th at one of the most competitive races in the world, I'd say, "What?" I think after I ran that for 3 or 4 miles with friends and started just exploring running and exploring Boston and exploring, like, wow, there's this stuff that I can do that I like, a few years ago, I thought I, like, couldn't do a third of this, and now this is, like, just, like, a long exploration. I think that Robin would be like, "Yeah, who knows what's possible?" Like, "I don't know." And I think I now, like, have that in a lot of areas of my life is, like, if I don't put effort into moving in a direction, yeah, I'm not gonna move it that direction, but if I decide it's something I wanna pursue and take the steps to move towards it, yeah, I think I can do it.
Do you think the meaning of running has changed since 7-year-old, where you hated it, but then high school you hated it as well, but then you started loving it, but now has it been different
Meaning.
each time? Or yeah,
Yeah, I think it evolves a lot. One of the things that stands out to me when I think about that 7-year-old self when I was playing around with running some is I got so bored.
it is
I'd be
boring.
running along and I'd think about some stuff and then after 4 or 5 minutes I'm like, "Okay, I've thought about everything. Now what?" Like I've done all my thinking. Now I'm still running. Like now what do I do with my brain? Like this is really boring. Now I don't get that. It's more I have lots more to think about, I guess, or it's more meditative
Yes.
or um it's just more to process because I'm now in my 30s instead of in my 10s. And the meaning evolves. Like I think it changes in college. It was just very exploratory. Like, wow, I can like I ran 4 miles. Like now what else can I do? Like I'll just maybe I can run for 40 minutes or maybe I can do this add on this part of this loop and see what happens. Very exploratory. In New Zealand, it was very exploratory in a different way, like exploring nature, also exploring distances and times, like seeing if we could do something long that goes all day and then that working. So also exploratory, but in a different way. This is like more less because now I'm running seriously professionally and have like a training schedule from Robbie, etc. and follow very diligently most of the time. It's more of a balance between like performance and exploring. There's sometimes a way to mix the two, but it's more of like a rigorous formulated practice. Um, yeah, I think it probably evolves for everyone through different phases. Even certain days are different. Certain days I'm like, yeah, this is just like get out and like come back when I'm supposed to be done. But like like just just turn off the brain. And other days is like, no, this is what I need to get out and do. And I'm gonna put on a podcast and I'm gonna do it. And other days I bring the music and I have no interest in using it because I'm too thinking about my life or thinking about nature or trying to figure something out. Yeah, every day's different as well.
Have you given any thought? Right. So let's say if you were not running, then you'd probably be sailing. I think that's a pretty easy answer, right?
Maybe.
If you,
Um,
but yeah, what would you be doing if you look back at it now? So if you were not running professionally, what would you be doing?
I don't know. That's a great question. There were various like forks in the road that I've taken to end up here, like everybody in their lives. One of the big forks that I think about sometimes was when I decided to stop being a professional sailing athlete and go into the design, like sailing design, for various reasons, like a lot of super valid reasons, I think. I do look back at that and say, and like wonder because it was like right when foiling was starting, like foiling small sailboats, and I was in a perfect spot for that. And the thing I look back on and think about is not like whether I made the wrong decision or anything. I believe that you're always making the best decision you can with the information you have. In the future, you'll have more information. You might look back at a decision and say, oh, I wish I'd done it differently. But there was no way you actually could have done it differently in the moment because you had the information you had and you did your best. So I don't think about like whether I should have chosen differently. I think about whether I actually thought about it as a choice. Because I think I got the offer and I said yes. I didn't say, interesting. What would it look like to take it? What would it look like to not take it? And so I think that's sort of something I think about is like making sure that when I have choices that I think about them, that it's not just, move in that direction. I don't know where I'd be. If I had chosen that fork, I would definitely be in the sailing world as an athlete. If I was in New Zealand, maybe I don't know, live in New Zealand, live here, be in engineering, be not. I probably would have figured out something else unusual. I tend to do peculiar
That
things.
is, a,
Yeah, I don't know.
but that is a very good perspective you brought in, though. When you make in life, right? So when we are at this certain phase and when we make the decision, then there is only limited information as compared to the past where you can go back and look at it. And I think when we make certain decision, I think that makes sense at that time, right? So I think that
Yeah.
is a very cool perspective. I don't know if how many people understand it or take that into consideration. And few things left before we sign up. So when before it was just fun for you, right? You didn't liked running and now you love this competitive nature, and then when you go to these different events, then you're probably the favorite to enter that competition, whatever it may be, or you there is a lot of spotlight on you. Has this created some sort of pressure for you, or do you still love running?
I still love running. I think the hardest part is when you're training seriously, when you're a pro, is that balance between like the stuff you just want to do and what you should do. And the should do's are like, probably shouldn't go long and explore this thing because I have a workout in 2 days. Or just like making the smart decisions for performance, or for reducing injury likelihood or things like that. I think that's the hardest part of running seriously is like balancing between just the love and just being like, I just want to go into the La Plata Mountains and I just want to explore and I want to come back at sunset, which I can't do that. Maybe if I train for Hard Rock one day, then that lines up with my race goals. It's on me because of the races I've chosen. That doesn't apply. And actually, probably doing that more than occasionally doesn't apply to any racing because it's extremely fatiguing. So that's the hardest part in terms of like the spotlight and stress in racing. Something's happened in the last year. So I used to ignore the entry lists, ignore as much as I could about the like hype side of the race because I was afraid it was going to stress me out. And I didn't want that to happen. When I was in college sailing, I would ask to not know the scores. Like I knew my race results, but I didn't want to know where we were relative to the other teams because I was skippering and I just knew that I just needed to sail as fast as I could and as good as I could the whole time, and knowing a result wasn't going to change that. It was only going to make it worse. Like, how would it make it better? So I just kind of ignored all that. And I took that into running as well. I was like, I don't want to know any of it. My coach would occasionally look up some stuff and tell me, but like select stuff. And I wouldn't be looking at the list. But in the last year, somehow, I'm not quite sure. This would be interesting to think about and figure out what has changed. But I now just know that I'm strong. I'll race as strongly as I can. And I'm kind of curious who else is there because I know that the results don't have anything to do with, like, the times have to do with how well we have prepared and how fit we are. The position will depend on who's there, but having other people there isn't a detriment. It just helps us all race at a higher level. So now I'm kind of excited to see who will be at a race and who I can say hi to and like how how much I'll be chasing fast ladies or who will be right behind me or who might be and who will have like, and then we all have the days that we have. So um it's all like, I wonder what the story of this race is going to be like. uh So I'm excited to learn about who will be there. And then on the race day, it's kind of like we're all writing the story of this race, like who will be in first, where the changes will be, like who will do what at what point, and it like hasn't been written yet. And then while we're racing through the day, the story like creates itself or something like that.
It does definitely. I think it's difficult to predict because, like you said, it's so competitive now, and
Yeah.
men, women, everybody's flying, even on 50K, 100K, 100 mile, 200 mile races. Like Killian Court has been breaking records left, right, center, and like even back at the ultra, Phil Gore, he just God, so many people are so many things.
Yeah. Yeah. So it
I
doesn't
I
make me
think
nervous for some reason, which is cool.
think it may be because you are much more comfortable with this surrounding and where you are
Yeah.
at
And I'm
yourself. And when you
thanks.
look at
And I'm not cutting, I know for myself that I'm not cutting any corners. Like I'm doing all the pieces. There have been some races where I'm like, oh, yeah, well, at this moment I can't kick because I haven't been doing strength training and I know she has. That's an excuse. That's completely an excuse. For sure I could have cooked harder had that not like stuck in my brain. But I now know that I'm doing all the pieces and I'm often making the smart training decisions, not always. Sometimes I do what I want to do instead of the smart decision. But I'm doing all the pieces and I'm at where I'm at, and so is everyone else, and we just get to go out there and write the story of the race.
you do. So the next thing is this rapid fire. I'm just gonna ask you a bunch of random questions and you just give me whatever comes to your head.
Okay.
Trails or roads?
Trails. The roads are fun in the winter sometimes. The trails.
Uphill grind or downhill bomb?
Oh. Okay, historically downhill bomb. After CCC, I'm actually starting to really like the uphills. So, yes.
Okay. One race you would drop everything to run.
I should figure this out because I'm planning my race season. Um this
Not
isn't
bad.
a drop everything, but it's like really I want it on my list. It's about marathon in Switzerland. Yes, because we were hiking there years ago, like 2018, and I saw these like permanent markers, and I was like, "Whoa, people run on this stuff!" So it'd be fun to go back and run on that stuff.
Should win it.
Yeah.
Morning run or sunset run?
Morning.
Music, silence, or podcasts on long runs?
What was it?
Music, silence, or podcasts?
Most often silence.
Race that broke you but taught you the most?
The race that definitely broke me the most was Flagstaff Sky Peaks in 2022. Yeah. 10 kilometers to the finish at elevation when it's rolling and it's your first year racing seriously is a beast.
Fun beast.
Yeah. Yeah. That was an adventure.
One word that defines you as a runner.
Hmm. Cheery. That's not always true, but it's how I feel right now.
And two questions left. These are the questions I ask everybody. Why do you run?
Hmm. Hmm. The first thing that came to mind was personal sanity. I think there's a lot more to it. I think it's like does a lot for my psyche. I learn a lot, and I learn things that are not true that I think are true, and vice versa. It does a lot for my brain, I guess, in all the ways.
Yes. Sorry. I think that is for all of us. I think
Mm.
it is common for all of us. And the final question is I would like you to please finish this sentence for me. Running has changed my life because.
It's expanded my view of possible.
Beautiful. I mean, this
Thanks.
was a awesome conversation. I mean, we had so much fun. So, thanks so much for your time. And I know it took a while to get this going on, but yeah, I really appreciate you giving few awesome pointers, especially the 100 miler. I think I'm going to keep that in my mind. So yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, certainly. Thank you, Ash, and thanks for putting these together. I look forward to listening to
Yep. Yeah.
a bunch of the other ones too.
Yep. Thank you so much, and have a good rest of your day. And then it is evening here, so as you can see. So
Yeah.
yeah, see you
Yeah.
next
Well,
time.
to everyone, thanks for listening. And feel free to follow me. I'm Trails for Smiles with the number 4 on Instagram. Ash is putting together these podcasts. You should follow him too. You probably already are. But feel free to reach out with any like mindset coaching questions, mindset race questions. I do a little bit of coaching, but more on the mindset stuff is what I'm personally passionate about. Yeah. And also women on the trails. Like I was really fortunate in New Zealand to get a lot of experience just spending time training in the mountains, and I learned a lot from friends, but I've realized that that's unusual and special, and that if I didn't have that, I don't know how I would get up into the mountains. So that's one of my personal missions. Maybe I haven't quite leaned into it enough yet for it to be a mission, but something that's really important to me is helping other women get those skills. So any of those genres, mindset stuff, reach out to me.
Yeah, thanks so much for that. And next time, and when you do another race, we can come back and talk about how fun it was, just like CCC. So it will be
Yeah,
a
and all the
very
stuff
cool story to
I
talk.
learned then.
Yes, yes,
Always learning.
yes, definitely. Yeah, thank you so much.
Super. Thanks so much, Ash.
Yeah. Okay. Bye bye.
Bye.
Hey everyone, thank you for making it to the end of the podcast. I hope you really enjoyed this conversation. I'll see you again next time with another guest. Until then, happy running.